Welcome back to our newest session of Beyond Titles. Who You Are Matters, because who you are really matters. And I have someone with me today who really matters to me. And I want to introduce you to Jessalyn Burden. And I am so grateful to her for being here with me today. Jessalyn, thank you so much. Appreciate your
Thanks for
time.
having me. I'm looking forward to this.
So, we're going to just dive right into the questions. And I'm really confident that you're going to do a great job with them. Are the three words others might use to describe you the same as the ones you use to describe yourself?
Yes, that short answer, yes. Um, if I had thought about this before I started my business, a couple of years ago, I probably would have said no. Um, the words that I did come up with were committed, compassionate, and authentic. And I think the reason I'm able to use the word authentic and authenticity is because I decided to leave the public school and kind of follow my heart and my dreams and start my own tutoring business. And I feel like I'm more myself through that now. I'm able to really seriously help these kids, in my opinion. And and yeah, it's so different. I think there's just more of a consistency between how I see myself and how others see me now that I really am being my authentic self.
So, of course, I love those three words that you used. And I've seen how much you are committed, your compassion, and your authenticity, and how it's grown. But I know a lot about your journey, and so I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind explaining what actually led you to go into doing the tutoring and why that connects to how the words didn't connect with what how others would describe you before you made that change.
Okay, so like my background a little bit
Well, what was
with
the reason you went into tutoring? How did you even get there?
well, I am the oldest of five and we were all homeschooled overseas. And I loved learning. I loved helping my younger siblings. I taught ESL English with my dad in high school. I volunteered at summer camps and when I graduated high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do because nobody in my family had gone to college. However, um after I took a gap year and kind of did a lot of those things and realized, it was kind of staring me right in the face and decided to go for an elementary education degree. While I was there, and kind of started getting into it, I was thinking, I don't know if I want to be a regular classroom teacher. I think I want to help those kids that are kind of on the outside or who are struggling, even if they are in the regular classroom and stuff. So I was actually able to add the degree of special education onto that. So I was able to graduate with both. And I graduated during COVID. So if that tells you anything, my first 2 years of teaching were rough. They were a lot. And I had just turned 25 and I just did not want to be completely burnt out. I was seeing teachers who were burnt out and it really affected the kids. And I never wanted to get to that point. I wanted to keep my passion for for what I do. And so that's kind of I had a couple conversations with my husband and he was like, we built you a website during COVID for fun. What if we turn that into a tutoring business? And it kind of started off a little bit more as a hobby,
Right.
but yeah, now it's turned into a
But you
full.
didn't just go from college and graduation into tutoring.
No, that's why, because I taught. I taught 2 years. Oh, did I forget to mention that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I taught 2 years. That's what I meant. Like I graduated during COVID, and then my first 2 years were also during COVID teaching.
Ah,
Is
okay.
why it was so rough. Yes. So then
Well,
by
okay,
then,
that makes sense. A
yeah.
little bit more sense. Yeah, okay.
So by then I was 25, finishing my second year.
And
And
and so what was the difference about teaching, in mainstream school and teaching those special ed kids as opposed to what you planned to do when you decided to go out and do it on your own?
well, one of the biggest things that made me want to leave was the school that I was working at. They couldn't find anybody else to help me. I was doing a position for 3 people, and I had a caseload of over 60 kids. And if anybody knows anything about special education and IEPs and stuff, there's a lot of legal paperwork and a lot of things that you legally have to follow. And I physically was unable to do all of that. So I also didn't think that losing my license over something like that was worth it. And I wasn't able to give these kids what they needed,
Mm.
that one-on-one support and instruction, which is impossible to give to 60 kids during the week. And, there's always the testing and, the higher ups, and you have to follow all of these things. And so that's why, honestly, what had the way I thought of it going into Inspired Tutors was I'm basically going to do what I had wanted to do in the school, but I'm going to do it one-on-one and privately and, just between me and the parents. And it's
Well, we
working
know
out.
it's been working out really, really well. And we'll get to more of that a little bit later. Okay, next question. And I have a feeling I know what you'll say. What wouldn't be like it is today had you not been a part of it? And what value did you add?
Well, Inspired Tutors wouldn't exist, I would like to think. And just the kind of what we were talking about before, the uniqueness of it and the help that I've given these kids and hope to give to many more. It's just a little bit different than the normal tutoring business or tutoring website and everything because it's so individualized, it's so one-on-one, and we build those relationships with the kids. I say we because I do have another tutor working with me that I hired in October. So, um
There's such a short time in business. You're doing amazing things. What's one thing about you that doesn't change no matter what changes around you? And what is it about that that's important?
the first thing that comes to mind is my belief in a child's potential
Hmm.
because there's a lot of kids that don't have anybody rooting for them and they lack the confidence and maybe they have, you know, a learning disability, they might be special needs, something like that. But even if a child is nonverbal, even if a child has autism, Down syndrome, literally anything, they are all capable of certain things. It just might be a little bit different than what is considered normal. And that's literally, it's in my tagline now is confidence, is because that's along with teaching the academics and bridging those gaps to where, they may have missed certain instruction and stuff. Confidence is just really big. And I really want kids to know that they're capable and that they can do big things.
What is it about your passion to help kids have that confidence? Like, where does that come from?
I think a lot of it comes from being the oldest of five and, being homeschooled. And I was the typical learner. And I love to learn, love to read, love to just do work for fun, educational work. And my three younger brothers just were very different. And my mom really struggled to find specific curriculums and resources to help them learn because using what she used with me
Hmm.
didn't work with them. And, they weren't reading as much, you know, very fluently until fourth or fifth or sixth grade. My brothers really struggled in the areas of reading and spelling and fluency and stuff. However, they did really good in math. And so I was the first one in my family to go to a four-year university and get, a bachelor's degree and everything. Um, and they just didn't think that that was going to be the path for them. And they actually went to a 2-year community college in Mississippi where my grandmother lives. And for one, they don't have the student loans, so good on them. That's great. And they also did more of, it wasn't necessarily labeled a trade school, but they went into different areas of mechanics and engineering and stuff.
Good
And
stuff.
right, and it very good stuff. And it didn't mean sitting in a class, all day, every day. There's a lot of hands-on work, and they were all like top of their class, people wanting to hire them right out of their 2-year schooling. And it was just a testament to, even if school's not necessarily your thing, you can still do great things.
And it sounds like that's what motivated you to pay it forward, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for sharing all of that. All right, next question. What's the most important thing you want someone to know about you when you meet them for the first time?
Well, first of all, I I want to make a difference. I want to make meaningful connections with, if we're talking about meeting people at networking events and stuff, I don't want to be that person that's just going around handing out business cards and stuff like that, as we know. Um, but also, I want people to know that my background has really helped me and given me the tools to do what I'm doing and for who I am, being bilingual, growing up overseas with Canadian parents and, coming to the States and then moving around the States as well, going from Mississippi to Florida and now being up in Alaska. I've experienced a lot of, cultures and languages and different ways of learning and different ways of teaching. And I feel like that really helps me in my business.
And I think people see that because at least I know from our discussions and just our interactions, as colleagues and friends, your heart pours out in everybody that connects with you. And that's not always the case for everybody, but you really put a lot of care into everything that you do, and I think that shows. And all the things that you've gone through over the course of your lifetime have really made a difference in that. So I really appreciate you sharing that, and I think your heart is the most important thing that people see when they meet you for the first time. All right, a big question. Who inspires you to be the best that you can be and why?
A lot of people, but number one, I would have to say my husband because honestly, the idea for this stemmed from him building me a website during COVID and then pushing me because I was quite just exhausted and miserable teaching and I didn't want to be burnt out because I saw what that did to, other teachers who were just stuck in it for the pension. And, he has just really pushed me he continues to push me to be better and to do things out of my comfort zone, which I feel like I do all the time. I'm great at, working one-on-one with the kids, but when it comes to all the, external business stuff, it's tough and he's really, really helped me a lot and he's just the most driven person that I know. Works really hard. And then honestly, like the women in business because growing up, I never really saw, and maybe it was because of where I grew up and stuff, but I just never really saw a lot of successful women. And there's successful moms, people who don't have kids, and just women all across the board that are following their passions and dreams and turning them into careers. And it's just amazing. And I love seeing and, taking inspiration from that and um having them, I call you my unofficial official mentor because just of how much I've learned from you. And
I
you
appreciate that. I don't really feel like I've been teaching you, but
are doing it
that
without even
it's very
realizing.
special. It's very special that you feel that way. Thank you. I know that you've actually um, had exposure to a few women who have literally gone from this to this in the time that you know them,
Mhm.
right? Just in our community, because it blows my mind because I'm seeing it, and I
Mhm.
think that I don't think we really have that opportunity to see those types of things in our everyday to day unless we're kind of put in a space where we engage those people because I don't know that I knew that too many powerful women in business before I kind of became one, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
and I'm watching what other people are doing, and that's pretty amazing. So I think you don't even realize that you've become one of them. I know it probably doesn't feel that way to you, but I do know, and that in the less than 1 year that you've been in Alaska, you've really hit some milestones that most people don't hit in their whole journey. So, um, and we will get back to that. I'm going to sidebar that in a moment and ask you this next question because I think this will wrap everything up. What are you most passionate about, and how does that connect with what you do?
I think I've always been a helper. I've always wanted to help people. And I think that just kind of translates into, I mean, my biggest thing, the thing that keeps me going and the passion alive is those like light bulb moments, with kids, you work on something for sometimes weeks. And then all of a sudden it clicks. And then through that, I'm also helping the parents and helping their make their lives a little bit easier. And I feel like that's kind of what it comes down to is the helping.
So, you've always been a helper, and that's obvious in the journey that you've been on. You helped your siblings when you were all growing up, you helped them later on in life, just being their mentor, I think. And I think that it's not just your opinion on how you see the confidence grow in your students. I kind of believe I've heard some great testimonials. So, with that, I'm going to ask you, what would you say if you introduced yourself as if you were your best referral?
Can I read you my favorite testimonial?
No, we're not going to listen to you. Of course you can.
Okay, this is my one of my most recent ones, and it talks about the confidence. She says, I can't say enough good things about Jessalyn. My child has been struggling since kindergarten, and after just a few sessions, I've already seen a huge improvement in her confidence and skills. She is the third tutor we have tried, but our first one online. Jessalyn is kind, patient, engaging, and knows how to make learning fun. My daughter really looks forward to seeing her 3 times a week, and I highly recommend Jessalyn to any parent looking for a dedicated tutor.
That's pretty powerful. They had to try a few people before they got to you, and you are the right one. One of the most important things I think I just want to highlight here is that when you made that move with your husband to Alaska, you really didn't know anybody there.
Not a
You
soul.
were in a very crucial yet still early stage of building your business. And I think the thing that amazed me the most was how you almost instantly met people, created friendships, not having anything to do with business. You really just put your heart out there and you experience life every single day in spite of what really does change around you. And that's a very powerful thing. So, what I just want our listeners to know is that no matter how many changes you go through, no matter what changes around you, Jessalyn is obviously a great example of how you can really live life every day to its fullest and make it look the way you want it to look. Like I said, she isn't there a whole year yet. She's already filmed 2 commercials. She's got great connections in the local chamber. She's made a ton of friends. And I think those are pretty well around Alaska at this point. Anybody can put their mind to it and really choose the life they want. And Jessalyn, you are such a prime example of that because you've never let any of these shifts, changes, or pivots that have come to you in your life define who you are and what you do. And I, for one, I appreciate you. So this is a Lynn moment when she gets a little emotional. So forgive me, audience. What I'd like to ask you, Jessalyn, is for those of our listeners who out there who might be saying, I need to talk to her because I want to see if she can help my kid, or I know somebody who may have a child that might be able to benefit. The beauty of what you do is that it's all virtual, so you can help anybody anywhere, but they can't be helped by you if they don't know how to reach you. So please share with them a little bit about Inspired Tutors and how they can connect with you.
Okay, so everything is Inspired Tutors across the board. My website is inspiredtutors.org and it has a lot of information, a lot of pages, resource pages. There's a former IPP member that has a podcast. I have her linked in there and, some other people as well. My Facebook and Instagram are also Inspired Tutors. I'm pretty active on those. And I have a YouTube channel as well with some fun little short videos for kids that are educational, and that is also Inspired Tutors.
Fantastic. So if someone wanted to reach out to you directly, is your information for how they can contact you on your website?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's all over the place. And then
Okay,
my email is also just jessalyn@inspiredtutors.org. So
fantastic. So I so appreciate you coming today. You are really one of our extraordinary IPP members. We have a very tight community of people who know, like, and trust each other. And the fact that you have made these moves and still stick with us is a testament to what Inner Power Partners is all about, because we're a people first community that really focuses on who you are, because we care about who you are, or we're not going to want to do business with you. So that being said, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and please come back for our next episode of Beyond Titles, Who You Are Matters. And if you want to learn more about Inner Power Partners, just go to our website, innerpowerpartners.com, and you can connect with me directly through there. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Jessalyn, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate you. And until our next episode, have a great weekend.